Okay, so this happened like a week ago and I'm still freaking out about it. I've always been a lurker on Reddit, but this is so weird I had to make an account just to share it. Anyway, I live pretty far out in the country. My nearest neighbor is about a half a mile away, and you can't even see their house through the trees. It's quiet, which is what I love about it. I moved out here to get away from people, you know. Just me, my dog Buster, and a whole lot of trees. Buster's a German Shepherd, super protective and usually pretty chill. He barks at the mailman, squirrels, the usual dog stuff. But about a month ago, he started acting real strange. Every time I let him out in the backyard, he'd beeline it to this one spot in the woods, hackles raised, barking his head off. At first I figured it was a deer or something he was smelling maybe. We get a lot of those around here. But it was weird how focused he was, like laser focused on this one specific spot. And it was every time. Didn't matter if it was day or night, rain or shine, he would just stand there barking and growling at nothing. At least nothing I could see. I tried everything to get him to stop. Treats, toys, yelling at him, which I hate doing, but damn, it was getting annoying. Nothing worked. He'd just whine and pull on his leash trying to get back to that spot. One day, I decided to check it out myself and walked down to where Buster was going nuts. It was just woods. Regular, boring woods. Some trees, some underbrush, nothing out of the ordinary. I even walked around the area trying to see if maybe there was an animal den or something that I was missing. Nope. Nada. I tried asking around town casually, you know, like, hey, anyone else having trouble with weird animals in the woods? People mostly gave me strange looks. In hindsight, I probably looked like some kind of crackhead. One old guy at the gas station mumbled something about not going into those woods after dark, but he clammed up when I pressed him for details. This went on for weeks. Buster barking, me getting more and more unnerved. I even started losing sleep. Every little creak in the house had me jumping out of my skin. I felt like I was being watched, but I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever it was watching Buster, not me. Then things escalated. A few nights ago, I woke up to Buster going absolutely ballistic. I mean, full-on howling. The kind that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Ran to the window, and there he was, in the backyard, staring into the woods, louder than I'd ever heard him. And then I saw it. Okay, saw might be the wrong word. It was more like a shadow. A really dark, dense shadow, moving around the trees. It was subtle, almost like a trick of the light, but it was definitely there, moving very slowly but deliberately towards the spot where Buster was barking. I froze. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even move. All I could do was watch as this thing got closer and closer to my dog. Buster's barking got even more frantic, desperate almost. He started backing away, whimpering, but he never took his eyes off that shadow. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the shadow was gone. Vanished, like it was never there at all. Buster kept barking for a few more minutes, and then slowly calmed down. He came back to the house, tail between his legs, and spent the rest of the night pressed up against me, shaking. I haven't slept properly since. I haven't let Buster out in the backyard alone. Keep thinking about that shadow, what it could have been. Was it just my imagination? Was it some kind of bear or other animal that I just couldn't identify in the dark of night? Do I need lithium? Am I schizophrenic? Or was it something else? I don't know what to do. I'm thinking about getting a security camera, maybe even calling in a wildlife expert or something, but part of me is terrified of what I might find. So this happened maybe a month ago, and I still don't really know what to make of it. I figured I'd share it here and see if anyone has had a similar experience, or, I don't know, maybe an explanation. Anyway, I live in this kind of rural area, not like full-on farmland or anything, but my house is set back a bit, with a decent stretch of woods behind it. I'm used to the usual sounds, owls, coyotes sometimes, the wind rustling through the trees, but this was different. It was maybe 3 a.m., and I was wide awake just scrolling through my phone. My bedroom window was open a crack, and that's when I heard it. This breathing. It was heavy, raspy, like something with lungs way bigger than any animal I know around here. It wasn't constant either, more like a long inhale, then a pause, then another inhale. I froze, obviously. My heart was pounding in my chest. I told myself it was probably just a deer or something. but deep down I knew it wasn't. It sounded too deliberate, too close. I lay there for what felt like hours, just listening. The breathing would come and go, sometimes closer, sometimes further away. I was terrified to move, terrified to even breathe too loudly. Finally, I guess I must have dozed off because the next thing I knew it was morning. Checked the woods behind the house, half expecting to find some huge animal tracks or something, but there was nothing. Just the usual deer prints and the occasional squirrel digging around. I tried to brush it off, told myself it was just a weird dream or something, but the memory of that breathing, it just stuck with me. A few nights later, it happened again. Same time, same heavy, raspy breathing. This time I managed to get out of bed and peek through the blinds. I couldn't see anything, but the breathing definitely seemed to be coming from just the edge of the tree line, maybe 50 yards from my window. I know this sounds crazy, but I felt like whatever it was, it knew I was watching, like it was toying with me. I quickly ducked back down and just lay there, frozen until the sun came up. The next day, I did what any rational person would do. I went to Home Depot and bought a bunch of motion-activated floodlights. I installed them all around the back of the house, figuring if there was something out there, at least they'd be able to see it. For a few weeks, everything was quiet. I almost started to think I'd imagined the whole thing. Then, one night, the lights turned on. Jumped out of bed and ran to the window. The floodlights were all blazing, illuminating the woods in the harsh white light. But there was nothing there. No animals, no people, nothing. Just the trees and the shadows. And then I heard it again. The breathing. It was closer this time, much closer. And it was coming from right below my window. I swear to God, I almost jumped out of my skin. I backed away from the window, my heart pounding in my throat. I grabbed my phone and called the police, but even as I was dialing, I knew how crazy I must sound. Hello, 911? Yes, I'd like to report some heavy breathing outside my window. Before the operator could even answer, the lights went out. I looked back out the window, and that's when I saw it. There was a face pressed up against the glass. Pale, gaunt, with these huge dark eyes that seemed to bore right through me. And it was smiling, this awful, predatory smile. I screamed and dropped the phone, stumbling back away from the window. I fumbled for the light switch, flicked it on, and the face was gone. I ran to the front door, threw it open, and ran out into the street. I didn't stop running until I reached the neighbor's house. They let me in, called the police for me, the whole 9 yards. The cops came, searched the woods, searched my house, found nothing. They said it was probably just some kids messing around. But I know what I saw. That face wasn't a kid. I haven't slept in my bedroom since. I've been crashing on the couch with all the lights on. I've even thought about selling the house, but I don't know where I'd go. I don't know what that thing was or what it wanted, but I know one thing. I never want to see it again. So this maybe happened 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but it was definitely sometime in the fall. See, every year my buddies and I head up to this cabin in northern Minnesota. It's way out in the middle of nowhere, miles from any real town or cell service. We've been doing it since college, kind of a way to escape the real world for a bit. Anyway, this one year, things were different. It started the moment we got there. It was late afternoon, the sun already starting to dip below the tree line. Usually the place is alive with the sounds of the forest. Birds chirping, wind rustling through the leaves, that kind of thing. But this time, there was nothing. Dead silent, like the whole woods was holding its breath. I remember making a joke about it. Guess the birds took the week off or something stupid. But even as I said it, I felt this weird chill crawl up my spine. My buddies laughed it off, but I could tell they felt it too, that something wasn't right. We unpacked the truck and got settled in. The cabin itself was the same as always, rustic, cozy, with the familiar smell of pine and dust. But outside, that unsettling silence just hung in the air. It was so thick you could taste it. We tried to ignore it, started a fire in the pit, cracked open a few beers, but the usually easy banter felt forced, and every time the flames crackled, the silence around us seemed to press in even closer. As night fell, it got worse. See, this cabin has no electricity. We rely on lanterns and candles for light, so when you step outside, it's pitch black. Like, can't see your hand in front of your face black unless the moon is out. We were sitting around the fire, telling stories, when Mark, it's one of my buddies, decided to head down to the lake. Said he wanted to take a leak. He grabbed a flashlight and headed off into the darkness. We waited. And waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Still no Mark. We started calling out his name, but the only answer was that damn silence. Finally, Mike, another one of the guys, said, "This isn't funny anymore, let's go find him." So we grabbed our flashlights and headed into the woods. The beams of our lights cut through the darkness, dancing across the trees, but it felt like they were only illuminating a tiny bubble around us. Beyond that, the darkness was impenetrable. We walked for what felt like hours, calling out Mark's name, but there was no sign of him, just that oppressive silence. I swear it felt like the woods were watching us, waiting for us to make a mistake. Then we heard it. A sound. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was definitely there. A kind of rustling, like someone or something, I guess, was moving through the underbrush. We froze, listening intently. The rustling got louder, closer. We shone our lights in the direction of the sound, but we couldn't see anything. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Silence again. But this time, it felt even heavier. More menacing, almost. We stood there for a moment, hearts pounding in our chests. Then Mike whispered, "Let's get the hell out of here." We didn't need any further encouragement. We turned and ran, stumbling through the darkness, branches whipping at our faces. We didn't stop until we reached the cabin, slamming the door shut behind us and bolting it tight. We huddled together in the flickering candlelight, panting and terrified. None of us said a word. We just listened to the silence outside, wondering what was out there in the darkness with us. Eventually, dawn broke, and with it, some of our fear subsided. We cautiously ventured outside, but there was still no sign of Mark. We searched the woods again, this time in the daylight, but found nothing. It was like he had vanished. We called the police, of course, but they didn't find anything either. They searched the area for days, but Mark was just gone. We never went back to that cabin. None of us could. The memory of that silence, the feeling of being watched, of losing Mark, it was too much. To this day, I have no idea what happened to Mark. Was he taken? Did he get lost and wander off? I don't know. But I do know that those woods, they're not natural. There's something else there. Something malevolent. And it's listening. Waiting. We shone our lights in the direction of this sound. I felt like I was being watched, but I couldn't shake the feeling that my buddies laughed.